It is so incredibly hard for me to pick a winner here, right? I don't have a good feel for this one.
I think the opposite.
How about this national championship?
How about it?
Indiana and Miami. They said this on the ESPN broadcast. It's low-hanging fruit, but if you wanted new blood in the college football playoffs, if you want it in the semis and the natty, here you go.
Can I say something very briefly before we dive into the end?
Yeah,
I'm
man,
gonna do it anyways. I'm not even going to
podcast.
ask.
Yes, you can say something.
For the Ohio State fan base that has been just all over the place about getting rid of Ryan Day and he's not going to be able to get it done and turning on Julian saying both of the teams that Ohio State lost to in games that they could have also very easily won are about to play for the national championship.
Does that make you feel better?
Kind of. I mean, it's not. There's no good thing as a consolation prize when it comes to this. It's all terrible.
Correct.
But if I'm going to try and bring any sort of positivity out of it, the two teams that you lost to are about to play for the championship trophy.
Leave it to.
And they were both in games that you weren't. I mean, Miami just flat out beat you. Indiana flat out beat you. But you had your chances, and it could have gone the other way.
Leave it to Ohio State fans to make this somehow about them.
Buckle up.
This is the classic where you've got the friend from like high school or college where, you know, some awful tragedy happens overseas. And they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so heartbroken about this. I was in such and such a place 27 years ago.
Look,
oh my goodness, I have a friend of a friend of a friend who once visited an ice cream shop there. And this is just
not true at all.
I am so,
all I'm saying
it's like,
is,
why can't you just be sad about it? Why does this have to be about you? That's what this is.
No, that's not what it is at all. All I'm saying is for all the Ohio State fans that are acting like the sky is falling,
it is.
Look at the competition. You just want it to be that way. You don't want us to have that mindset. And that's
Correct.
the Michigan side.
Because
of you.
your rivals can never
nothing.
be happy. Correct.
And so,
you get it. That's the new tagline for this podcast.
So that's why I'm just going to disregard it.
Stats
If the Ohio State fan side that is the world is falling, this all needs to drastically change. I've seen a handful of people saying I'm not even going to pay attention next year because they don't care. Okay. Good. Stop watching.
Honestly, I support that.
Yeah, that would do me so many favors because I don't have to read your stupid tweets. Let's talk Miami and Indiana.
Indiana and Miami. I mean, these are just two fantastic teams. Obviously, two outstanding defenses. Yeah. And two really good offenses too. Like Miami is a more, not that they can't be explosive, but they're a more methodical game control team. Indiana feels more explosive to me, but just incredibly talented, just two different styles. It is so and it should be in a national title game, right? It is so incredibly hard for me to pick a winner here, right? So like even go back a handful of years, right? Mm-hmm. Georgia TCU was not a tough game to pick the winner of that game. And I say that again, as both our teams lost to those two teams. So respect. It was not hard to see who was going to win that game. Michigan-Washington was a good matchup, but it felt like Michigan was going to beat Washington, and they did. Ohio State-Notre Dame, it felt like Ohio State was going to beat Notre Dame, and they did. I don't have a good feel for this one.
I think the opposite.
I don't have a good feel for this one, and I'm nervous. I am afraid because picking either one of these teams, like you've offended Indiana and Miami fans left and right.
Both of them hate me. I
don't feel like I've offended either of these fan bases, but now I feel like I have to. And I found out that the fans are very passionate.
Come on in. The water's fine.
Here's the low-hanging fruit analysis here is just, there's a part of me that just doesn't know how you slow this Indiana offense down. Mm-hmm. So going into the Oregon game, and again, Oregon, Miami, two very different teams, but going into the Oregon game, I mean, I picked Oregon in that game. I felt like Indiana was finally at the place where everyone was kind of expecting them to win. And I felt like Dan Lanning and the Ducks would be like, cool, that's fine. And it just never materialized. I felt like Oregon had the balance on defense and offense to play with Indiana, to play that same type of game. And it just never materialized. I mean,
first play. Yeah.
The way I yelled, the way I went, what? My wife is sitting there and she enjoys football too, but she wasn't really paying attention to the game. But I'm like, you have to stop what you're doing and watch this. It was just incredible. And that was the game. Yep. That was enough. So there's a part of me that's just really unsure, even when the matchup looks like it should be able to hang with them. Can you actually slow Indiana down? The only ones who, frankly, if I'm going to take the foam Wolverine head off again, the only ones who've really been able to do it were Ohio State. Now, Penn State played a close game with them as well, but defensively, I mean, Penn State still gave up 27 points. Ohio State gave up 13. And I do think that there's some credit to Ohio State there. Mm-hmm. I'd say that Miami has a very comparable defense to Ohio State. Look at the CFP. Look at what Miami was able to do against Ohio State. Look what Miami's been able to do in this playoff. Like if there's a defense that can slow down Indiana, not just slow them down, but can actually beat Indiana, it's probably Miami's defense. That's the one to do it.
They pose the biggest threat.
Indiana gave up, a handful of sacks to Ohio State, a handful of sacks to Alabama, really just one to Oregon, which is incredible. Obviously, Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, obviously, that's their bread and butter. They're going to get pressure. And can they force Fernando Mendoza into making mistakes? This is not rocket science. I mean, you could look at any college football game and you could say the same thing because I feel like we do. If they get pressure and can force mistakes, the question is, can they?
You sack quarterback, you win game.
If
rocket science.
Score more point than them, then you win.
Yeah. If time hits zero and you have more points,
they asked
game is yours.
They asked Christian McCaffrey after the Niners game yesterday. They're how did you had this strategy? How'd that play out? He goes, well, we won. So good. I don't know. Before I give the prediction though, where are you at with this? Cause you said that you feel differently. I feel like this is just no separation. You feel different.
I feel different. And I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but I'm going to have to offend one of these, like you said.
You don't mind doing that.
I don't. If I truly believe something, I'm going to stand on that hill. I have disrespected Indiana for far too long. Last year, I thought it was deserving.
Miami aside, that's just undebatably true.
Well, but I would still even stand on my side that prior to the Big Ten championship, I felt like what I was saying was still valid. Until they beat Ohio State, I just needed to see it because I had heard the same thing last year coming into Columbus, and then they got curb stomped. So I just had to see it against my team because that's where my standards were at. They did that, and ever since then, I feel like I've been fair to them. I've picked them in almost every single game. I don't know if I actually picked against them in any game.
I don't think you have.
I've been a firm believer. And the laser focus that I see from this team, I mean, I'm looking at all these tough games and I'm thinking, well, the Alabama game should be at least good. They'll still win it, but it should be at least fun. It wasn't. Then I go, okay, well, Oregon, they're still probably going to beat them. I've seen this game earlier in the year. It's at a neutral site. They'll still probably win it, but it should be a good one. And it wasn't. And it wasn't necessarily because of a ton of mistakes the other team did as much as the way Indiana played was just so much harder, so much faster, so much more experienced. The drive, the hunger is just there. You can see it in the coach. You can see it in the maturity that Fernando Mendoza plays with. You can see it in the strength of Roman. Yeah, there's just something different when you can see a team and you've seen them play in big enough games and you see the composure that they have and the style that they play with and the swagger that they play with. And it's not overly flashy. It just feels pro ready. And I look across the board.
I think it's pretty flashy, man. I mean, these guys are
they're explosive. Out. I mean, look at the game against Oregon. They got outgained total yardage. But it just didn't matter. I mean, Mendoza threw for $177, but he also had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They didn't really need to.
Well, because their defense was just so
good. And so I'm looking at that and I'm going, I don't know if I did a little head to head, who do I think's the better coach, Mario Cristobal or Curt Cignetti? And I think without a doubt it's Cignetti. And that's not to be disrespectful to Miami at all. I just think Cignetti's at a different level right now. I'm looking at the quarterback play, and while I think Carson Beck has played well, he made really, really great decisions against Ole Miss. I'm looking at Mendoza, and I'm going, this guy is a top 2 pick in the draft. He's got that maturity, that professionalism. He's got the leadership skills that you want. He has obviously all the talent that you want. I put it as an even split between Fletcher and Hemby. I think maybe I'd probably give the slighter edge to Fletcher, but I think it's pretty close. It's closer than people want to give credit for. Wide receiver, I'm going Indiana. I think Surratt and Cooper are better than what you see. Malachi Toney's the better of all of them. But I think I'm still going Indiana. And I think even if you put the defense as a split, I'm looking at the amount of pressure that Indiana's been able to get on the quarterback. I look at Ole
Miami
Miss.
Has 2, though.
But against Ole Miss, they had, and I know this is stat watching, but they had 1 sack against Ole Miss.
Stats are stats. We've often said.
But they had 1 sack against them. And to be honest, they still gave up some points. I think that was the first game all season that they had gave up over 20 points in regulation.
That was the one concern I had for Miami coming out of that game was I expected Miami's offense to have success, and they did. But I was surprised to see Ole Miss have that much success against the defense.
And what stood out to me,
which Ole Miss is a great offense. Don't get me wrong, but if we're trying to project into this game here, does that tell us anything?
Yeah, and I think what makes it interesting is I'm looking through the Ole Miss and Miami game, and there's certain things about it that stood out to me that I think actually play in their favor. Their offense was crazy efficient throughout that whole game. They had 28 first downs, 459 yards of offense. They were 11 of 19 on third down, 2 of 2 on fourth down. But here's where it gets crazy for me. Time of possession. Did you realize how big of a gap that was? I hadn't until I actually went back and looked at stuff. Miami had possession for 41 minutes and 22 seconds. That means Ole Miss had the ball for a total of 18 minutes and 28 seconds. That is it. They had the ball for 18 minutes and they were done. The defense was just phenomenal. I know they still gave up over 20. It's tricky for me because I look at these defenses and it's like staring in a mirror in my mind. They both have really incredible defensive lines that can get to the quarterback. I just feel like when it comes to that, you need a quarterback that can run on his feet, escape the pocket, but also can make smarter throws. And I think if you have to twist my arm and make me force on which quarterback I think is going to do that better, it's going to be Fernando Mendoza. If I think that there's going to be a coach that's going to have his team better prepared to handle those situations, if there's a team that I think has been built to handle the noise, because let's not forget, this is a home game for Miami. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
So you're going into going to be a tough test.
Why do I feel like Indiana's going to out ratio the fan base, though?
They will, 100%. But I'm looking at this and I'm going, what coach do I think actually wants to be in that environment? And I think maybe outside of Dan Lanning, it's Curt Cignetti.
Yeah, he is not
psychotic. He's psychotic.
I'm happy at times.
Yeah, at times.
Okay.
Even in the press conference when Mendoza was talking about his stats and he said, I think I had 5 or 6 pre-snap penalties, and Cignetti goes 7. And I love it.
It's great. That's what you want.
There's just an edge about this team that I can't deny any longer. I have Indiana winning this thing 31-20.
Man. I feel like there's so little separation here. But I felt that way against Oregon. And again, it's kind of I could see this game could be a 1-point game or a 31-point game. And I don't know. I also took Indiana.
Okay. The right choice.
I'm gonna take it closer. I'm gonna take it. I don't think they cover.
Yeah, what are they, 7.5 right now?
I'm going to take 27-20. I think it's just under. I think Indiana 27, Miami 20. Simply because I feel like there is much less separation between these teams. I think I feel like these teams are built so similar. Mm-hmm. And Miami also just feels like, so like while Indiana like is America's team, I get that. There's something about Miami right now that feels just kind of like that team of destiny a little bit. There's that, the way that they, the conversation about should they have made the playoffs, should they have not? Yes, they should have. Alabama shouldn't. That's the correct response. But all, this is the same old Miami team and da. The fact that they then got matched up, that they went into A&M and beat them, give up 3 points. That they went to not to Ohio State, but faced Ohio State, beat them, not fluked their way through, beat them. The fact that they were then able to do the same thing with Ole Miss, who kind of also felt like that team of destiny thing, where it's like, hey, we lost the coach, but we're doing, and got it done. You've talked about there are those moments where you just feel like a team is going to win a game, right?
Yeah.
In 23, you referenced that Roman Wilson tipped ball catch against Alabama.
Yeah.
Where Michigan's driving down to tie the game and the ball gets tipped and everyone thinks it's picked off, and Roman Wilson kind of does his best jump man impression, goes up and gets it. Saves the season. Miami, Malachi Toney with that fumble that bounces right back to himself.
Yeah.
Felt kind of like that. there's something about Miami that just makes me go, man, I just don't know that this team's getting blown out.
Can I say a rage baity thing that's going to make maybe the Miami fan base a little mad at me?
And again, I'm saying that while still being willing to pick Indiana, because I can't make that mistake. I can't make that mistake again after the Oregon pick.
I'm going to say something that Miami fans are probably going to get mad at me for.
Well, they already hate you, so
that's why I'm just going to pile it on, because I don't really care.
Deflect away from me.
This is the first year they've been relevant since I was a child, so.
There you go. See, that's good. Why do I
let you fire me up? Let me just say the thing. This Miami team reminds me a lot of Ohio State last year. A team that had all the talent in the world. The expectations were sky high. During the regular season, they fell short. 2-loss team, no conference championship. People are debating, well, should they get in? I think last year was a little different. I think a lot of people still thought, regardless of everything, Ohio State deserved to go in.
I didn't think
that wasn't the conversation with Miami, but they had all the talent, failed to exceed those expectations in the regular season. They get into the playoffs. They have just a gauntlet. You have to go on the road to Texas A&M, who had one loss, who were talked about as being a championship favorite team, and they win. Then you have to go up and play against Ohio State, who had the best defense in the nation and a loaded offense, and you flat out win. And this is stuff you've already said. Then you go into Ole Miss, a team that was touted as this highly explosive offense, and you find a way to grit it out and win. And now you're at your last test, where I think the biggest difference is you looked at last year and you saw a huge talent gap between Ohio State and Notre Dame. And I think that was very fair to say. And I think, honestly, it was super evident on the field. This is another giant test that Miami's got to overcome. And I don't see it happening 4 times. I think Indiana is way too tough. And I just think they're built different.
I'll tell you this. It should be, I would say it's going to be a phenomenal football game, but also just the way that some of these playoffs have gone so far have just been so unexpected. By the way, I'm not saying Miami's going to get blown out, but it wouldn't surprise me. I didn't think Indiana would blow out Alabama. I didn't think they would blow out Oregon.
I thought they'd blow out Oregon.
I will not be able to wrap my mind on if Miami goes in and blows out Indiana, then we may as well quit this podcast.
That's the one scenario I don't think happens. I think if Miami wins, it's a close game. Would not surprise me if Indiana won a close game. Wouldn't surprise me if Indiana blew them out by 14 plus.
Have we offended every fan base? And by we, by the way, I mean you. I don't think I've said anything crazy.
Who else could I make fun of?
We already hit Michigan State.
Yeah, we made Michigan.
That's fine.
When do we have the conversation about Dan Lanning and his lack of being able to actually go and start to win big games?
We're not going to be doing that.
That's the next episode.
Please rate and review, subscribe wherever you're listening right now. As a reminder, rivalpod.com if you want to support the podcast, and at rivalpod on YouTube and across social media. National championship game coming on Monday evening next week. Podcast will be out on Tuesday for obvious reasons, because we can't predict the future, as you well know if you've listened to any of our predictions for the football season so far. The Rivalry Podcast is part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and the River Podcast Network from River Radio Ministries.
New episodes out every Monday.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening right now, and follow on social media at RivalPod and rivalpod.com.
And if you like what you hear, share with a friend so they can listen too.